Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Wisdom Channel. Tonight, we'll be exploring the vast pantheon of Hindu gods and the timeless wisdom carried in their stories. This is a tradition where the divine does not appear in only one form. It can teach through a child, a king, a warrior, a mother, or a figure beyond ordinary imagination. Each god reveals a different way to understand human life, and each story opens a doorway into a deeper question. What should we protect? What should we release? And what does courage look like when the world becomes uncertain? These gods are not distant ideas locked inside the past. They still speak through devotion, discipline, memory, and moral choice. Their stories ask us to look again at power, love, duty, time, and the hidden patterns beneath everyday life. Some of these teachings are famous across the world, while others feel surprising when we meet them for the first time. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is get settled in. Let your shoulders soften and let your breathing slow. And allow your mind to settle into stillness as we explore this mysterious world of Hindu wisdom together. Let's begin. Hindu gods reveal divinity through many forms, not one simple shape. This is one of the first ideas that makes Hindu tradition feel so vast. The sacred is not forced into a single image, mood, or personality. It can appear as a child who steals butter, a dancer surrounded by fire, a mother who protects the cosmos, or a quiet teacher seated beneath a tree. To some people, this looks like many separate gods. To others, it is more like one ultimate reality speaking through countless masks. That idea changes how you hear the stories. A frightening form may not be evil. A playful form may not be shallow. A beautiful form may hide a serious lesson. The divine becomes a language with many accents. It can meet the farmer, the scholar, the warrior, and the grieving parent in a form each can understand. Instead of reducing mystery, the tradition multiplies it. It says, reality may be too deep for one face. Krishna teaches that action matters most when ego steps aside. In the Bhagavad Gita, the setting is not peaceful at all. It is a battlefield, and that matters. The teaching does not arrive in a quiet classroom. It arrives when Arjuna is frozen by doubt, grief, and moral confusion. Krishna does not simply tell him to win. He gives a far stranger instruction. Act with full commitment, but do not become addicted to the reward. That idea sounds simple until you try to live it. Most people act because they want praise, control, security, or proof that they matter. Krishna points toward another possibility. Do the right work because it is yours to do. Let the result belong to something larger than your personal hunger. Some people see this as one of the most powerful psychological teachings in ancient literature. It separates effort from obsession. It turns action into discipline. It suggests freedom can begin even before circumstances change. Shiva destroys illusions so life can begin again with clarity. Destruction sounds negative until you ask what is being destroyed. In many Hindu traditions, Shiva is not merely ending things for the sake of chaos. He removes what has hardened, decayed, or become false. That makes him unsettling because most people cling to the very things that keep them trapped. A false identity can feel safe. A dying habit can feel familiar. An old fear can become strangely comfortable. Shiva's power cuts through that attachment. His ash-covered body, his wild hair, his meditation, and his dance all point toward a being who stands outside ordinary approval. He does not flatter the ego. He exposes it. Some spiritual thinkers compare this to the moment when life strips away an illusion you once protected. It hurts, but it also clears the ground. In that sense, the terrible face of transformation may be mercy wearing a severe expression. Vishnu preserves the world by entering history in surprising forms. The fascinating thing about Vishnu is that preservation is not passive. He does not simply watch the universe from a safe distance. When balance weakens, he enters the story. This is where the idea of avatars becomes so gripping. The divine can appear as a fish, a dwarf, a prince, a cowherd, or a form no ordinary mind could invent. Each appearance answers a different kind of crisis. Sometimes sacred knowledge must be saved. Sometimes arrogance must be humbled. Sometimes a ruler must become the example of duty. Sometimes love itself becomes the teaching. This gives Hindu mythology an unusual sense of motion. Time is not empty repetition. It is a stage where divine intelligence keeps returning in new disguises. Some people find this idea startlingly modern because it suggests that wisdom adapts. The form changes, but the deeper purpose remains the restoration of balance. Durga shows that gentleness and power can live together. Durga is often shown riding a lion or tiger, armed by the gods, and facing a force that others cannot defeat. Yet her power does not erase her calm. That contrast is what makes her so compelling. She is not presented as reckless anger. She is focused strength. In the famous story of Mahishasura, the gods are unable to overcome a shape-shifting threat. Their energies combine, and Durga appears as the answer. The message is easy to miss if we only notice the battle. The deeper teaching is that protective force can arise from harmony. Her weapons come from different deities, but they serve one purpose. She becomes the form of courage that appears when scattered powers unite. For a modern listener, that can feel deeply personal. There are moments when kindness alone is not enough. Boundaries, discipline, and moral force also belong to the sacred. Ganesha turns obstacles into teachers before the journey even begins. Before many Hindu rituals, journeys, studies, and creative efforts, Ganesha is invoked first. That single detail says something profound about human life. The tradition does not pretend that the path will be smooth. It begins by acknowledging resistance. The elephant-headed god is beloved because he makes difficulty feel meaningful instead of random. His broken tusk, his large ears, his round belly, and his calm presence all carry lessons that people remember easily. Listen more than you speak. Digest experience without bitterness. Let sacrifice become part of wisdom. Some stories even show him creating an obstacle when someone is moving too quickly or without respect. That is where the idea becomes especially interesting. The thing blocking you may not always be your enemy. It may be a signal. It may be a pause that saves you from arrogance. It may be the first real teacher on the road. Kali reveals that time removes everything false from the self. Kali can shock people who meet her image for the first time. She is fierce, dark, and impossible to reduce to comfortable decoration. Yet her name is closely connected with time, and that changes everything. Time is the force that no one defeats. It takes youth, status, possessions, reputations, and even civilizations. Kali shows this truth without softening it. In some traditions, she is the mother who liberates by stripping away illusion. That can feel terrifying only because the ego wants to survive unchanged. Her garland and wild presence point toward a reality beyond polite appearances. Some people read her as a symbol of the moment when life refuses to maintain your false self. What remains after that removal is not emptiness. It is honesty. In a strange way, her frightening form can become comforting, because it says that what is unreal was never truly yours to keep. Saraswati teaches that wisdom begins with disciplined attention. Saraswati is connected with learning, speech, music, and refined understanding. But her lesson is not merely about being clever. She represents the cultivated mind. That matters because knowledge does not enter a distracted person very deeply. In many images, she holds a veena, a book, and a rosary. These are not random objects. They suggest harmony, study, and inward practice working together. This is a powerful idea for anyone living in a noisy age. Information is everywhere, but wisdom still requires attention. Speech can heal or harm. Music can train the inner ear. Study can become sacred when it changes the person who studies. Some people see Saraswati as a reminder that the mind is not just a machine for collecting facts. It is an instrument that must be tuned. When attention becomes steady, ordinary learning can turn into a path of transformation. Lakshmi reminds us that prosperity must serve inner balance. Lakshmi is often associated with wealth, beauty, good fortune, and abundance, but her presence carries a warning as well as a blessing. Prosperity without wisdom can become restlessness. Money without generosity can become fear. Comfort without gratitude can become spiritual sleep. This is why her symbolism is richer than simple luck. She is often linked with cleanliness, order, grace, and rightful living. The point is not that wealth is bad. The point is that abundance must be held properly. In many homes, devotion to Lakshmi is tied to preparation, care, and respect. The outer space reflects the inner state. Some interpreters find a deep psychological lesson here. What you receive must not make you smaller. It should make you more capable of steadiness, kindness, and responsibility. True prosperity is not only what enters your hands, it is what happens to your character after it arrives. Hanuman proves devotion can become a kind of unstoppable strength. Hanuman begins as a figure of service, but that service becomes extraordinary power. In the Ramayana, his devotion to Rama does not make him weak or passive. It makes him fearless. He leaps across the ocean, enters hostile territory, finds Sita, and returns with hope when despair is spreading. The point is not only physical strength, it is directed strength. His mind is not scattered by vanity. His courage is not performed for applause. Everything in him is gathered around a purpose larger than himself. That is why Hanuman remains so beloved. He shows what happens when loyalty, humility, and focus become one force. Some people see him as a model for the nervous modern mind. Most of us waste enormous energy protecting our self-image. Hanuman spends his energy in service of what he loves. The result is a strength that feels almost impossible, yet strangely attainable. Brahma creates worlds, yet receives far less worship than others. This is one of the most surprising details in Hindu tradition. The creator god sounds like he should be at the center of devotion everywhere. Yet Brahma has relatively few major temples compared with Vishnu, Shiva, or the goddess. That mystery has invited many explanations. Some stories connect his limited worship with divine correction. Others suggest that creation is only one phase of a much larger cycle. Once the world has appeared, preservation and transformation become the ongoing drama of life. Brahma's role remains immense, but his public presence is quieter than people might expect. This can feel like a hidden lesson about beginnings. We often glorify the moment something starts, but the deeper challenge is what happens afterward. A universe must be sustained. A life must be guided. A false structure must eventually be dissolved. Creation is astonishing, but it is not the whole story. Rama embodies duty when personal happiness becomes painfully complicated. Rama's story matters because he is not placed in easy situations. He is praised as an ideal king, son, husband, and moral figure, but the epic does not make those ideals simple. Again and again, he faces choices where every path carries pain. Exile interrupts royal destiny. Loyalty pulls him into hardship. Public duty places pressure on private love. That is why his life has remained so debated and powerful. He is not merely a symbol of victory. He is a figure through whom people ask what righteousness costs. In many tellings, Rama's greatness lies in self-command. He does not act only from personal desire. He tries to align himself with a larger order, even when the result wounds him. Some listeners find this difficult. Others find it inspiring. Either way, the story refuses shallow comfort. It asks whether doing right is still sacred when it breaks the heart. Parvati shows that spiritual power can be patient and relational. Parvati's story gives a very different vision of strength. She is not only powerful in battle or cosmic form. She is also powerful through commitment, presence, and transformation within relationship. In many traditions, she undertakes deep discipline to unite with Shiva, who is detached from ordinary life. This is not simply a romance. It is a meeting between the world-renouncing force and the life-affirming force. Through her, the distant ascetic becomes connected with household life, family, and embodied devotion. That makes her role spiritually fascinating. She does not overpower Shiva by aggression. She draws him into relation. Some people see this as a teaching about integration. The inner life cannot only escape the world. It must also learn how to love within it. Parvati reminds us that patience is not weakness. It can be the steady power that brings the highest truth into daily human existence. Agni carries human offerings into the unseen divine realm. Agni is one of the most important deities of the early Vedic world, and his role is immediately understandable. Fire transforms what it touches. In ritual, offerings placed into flame are not simply destroyed. They are carried onward. This made Agni a bridge between human beings and the gods. The idea is powerful because fire is visible, yet its destination is mysterious. You can watch the flame rise, but you cannot follow where the offering goes. That gives the ritual a strange intensity. The human hand acts in the physical world, while the meaning travels beyond sight. Agni is also present in the home, the altar, digestion, and the heat of life itself. Some modern seekers find this symbolism surprisingly deep. It says communication with the sacred may begin through transformation. Something must be given, changed, and released before it can reach a higher order. Indra warns that even heavenly power can fall into pride. Indra is king of the gods in many early stories, armed with the thunderbolt and associated with storms, victory, and command. Yet his myths do not make him morally flawless. That is what makes him interesting. He can be brave, generous, jealous, insecure, and easily threatened by the spiritual power of sages. Again and again, he shows the danger of authority without inner stability. A person may rule the heavens and still fear losing status. This is one reason his stories feel psychologically sharp. Power does not cure anxiety. It can intensify it. Some tales show him disrupting ascetics because their discipline might challenge his position. The deeper lesson is almost political. Rank is not the same as wisdom. Victory is not the same as freedom. Indra's greatness is real, but so are his weaknesses. Through him, the tradition studies the hidden instability inside dominance. Varuna once ruled moral order before becoming Lord of Waters. Varuna has an ancient depth that many casual listeners do not expect. In early Vedic hymns, he is connected with cosmic order, moral law, and the binding force that holds truth in place. He sees what humans try to hide. He is associated with vows, guilt, and the unseen consequences of wrongdoing. Later, he becomes more strongly linked with oceans and waters. But that older moral dimension never fully loses its fascination. Water itself may help explain the transition. It surrounds, covers, reflects, and reaches hidden places. Varuna's world is not merely physical, it is ethical. He suggests that reality has a structure deeper than opinion. Some people can hear in his mythology an ancient intuition that actions leave marks beyond public visibility. You may escape human judgment for a time, but you do not escape order itself. That is a profound and unsettling idea. Surya makes daily sunlight a living symbol of divine presence. Surya is striking because his power is obvious every morning. Unlike a hidden deity known only through story, the sun is seen and felt by everyone. It gives heat, measures time, nourishes life, and reveals the visible world. This makes solar worship one of the most direct forms of sacred recognition. In Hindu tradition, Surya rides a chariot and is connected with sight, health, rhythm, and royal radiance. The daily act of greeting the sun turned an ordinary sunrise into a spiritual event. Some practices connected with Surya treat light almost as a discipline. You do not merely admire it, you align yourself with it. The deeper teaching is simple, but enormous. Human life depends on a power we did not create and cannot command. Every day begins because something greater than personal effort arrives again. Surya makes that dependence impossible to ignore. Chandra links the moon with emotion, rhythm, and sacred timing. Chandra gives the night sky a personal and spiritual meaning. The moon changes shape, and those changes became part of how people understood time, ritual, fertility, and the inner life. Unlike the sun, which often feels steady and commanding, the moon feels cyclical. It grows, fades, disappears, and returns. That pattern makes it a natural symbol for moods and the shifting mind. In Hindu astrology and mythology, Chandra is connected with sensitivity, beauty, and the subtle movements of experience. This is fascinating because it suggests that time is not only measured by clocks. It can be felt in the body, the emotions, and the sacred calendar. Some people see moon traditions as ancient psychology hidden inside the sky. They remind us that human beings are rhythmic creatures. We are not machines. We wax and wane. The moon gives that truth a divine face. Yama teaches that death belongs inside the moral order. Yama is often feared because he is associated with death, but his role is more serious than frightening. He is not simply a monster at the end of life. He is a judge, a guide, and a guardian of consequence. In many Hindu and related traditions, death is not treated as meaningless collapse. It belongs within a wider pattern, shaped by action, duty, and spiritual law. That makes Yama one of the most important figures for moral imagination. He reminds human beings that life is accountable. What we do matters beyond the moment in which we do it. This can sound severe, but it can also be deeply stabilizing. A universe with Yama is not morally empty. Hidden deeds are not finally hidden. The end of a life is not outside order. For those who listen carefully, he teaches urgency. Live now in a way that can meet truth later. Kartikeya represents strategy, courage, and the discipline of youthful energy. Kartikeya is often associated with war, but his meaning is more precise than violence. He represents organized power. In many traditions, he is the commander of divine forces, and that role requires more than bravery. It requires timing, intelligence, restraint, and the ability to direct energy toward a clear aim. This is why he is such a compelling figure for self-improvement. Youthful force can become scattered. It can chase pleasure, attention, or conflict. Under discipline, the same force becomes heroic. Kartikeya's spear is sometimes understood as focused insight because it moves straight toward the heart of the problem. His popularity in South India, where he is widely loved as Murugan, adds another layer. He is not only a warrior, he is also a teacher, a beloved child, and a source of refined devotion. His lesson is that raw potential must be trained before it becomes sacred strength. Nataraja turns Shiva's dance into a map of existence. The image of Shiva as Nataraja is one of the most concentrated symbols in world religion. At first, it looks like a divine dancer inside a ring of fire. Then the meaning begins to unfold. One hand beats the drum of creation. Another carries flame. One gesture offers protection. Another points toward release. Beneath his foot lies a dwarf figure linked with ignorance. The whole image becomes a complete teaching in bronze. Existence is not still. It pulses, appears, dissolves, hides, and awakens. Some people find it astonishing that a single sacred image can hold an entire philosophy of reality without needing a written argument. It is movement turned into doctrine. The universe is not pictured as a dead machine. It is rhythm, intelligence, and transformation. For a sleepy listener, the deepest lesson is calm, but powerful. Life may feel chaotic, yet the dance suggests that change itself may have an order. Narasimha appears when justice needs a form beyond imagination. The story of Narasimha begins with a loophole. The demon king Hiranyakashipu gains protection from death by man or beast, inside or outside, by day or night, on earth or in the sky. It sounds like an unbeatable contract with reality. Then Vishnu appears as a form that slips between every category. He is neither fully human nor fully animal. The moment comes at twilight. The place is a threshold. The tyrant is placed on a lap, not the ground. Suddenly the loophole collapses. This is why the story grips the imagination so strongly. It says arrogance may master language, but it cannot master truth. A corrupt mind may search for technical escape, yet moral balance can arrive through a fall no one predicted. Some people hear this as a cosmic warning. Reality is more creative than the cleverness that tries to exploit it. Vamana shows that humility can contain the size of worlds. Vamana enters the story as a small Brahmin dwarf, which makes him easy to underestimate. That is exactly the point. The powerful King Bali has gained vast authority, and Vishnu does not confront him with obvious force. He asks for only as much land as he can cover in 3 steps. The request seems harmless. Then the small figure expands into a cosmic form. With 1 step, he covers the earth. With another, he covers the heavens. The final step becomes a moment of surrender. This tale is fascinating because the divine strategy is not brute strength. It is scale hidden inside modesty. The little request reveals the measure of a king's pride and generosity at the same time. Some people see in Vamana a lesson about appearances. What seems small may carry impossible depth. What seems harmless may be the exact place where destiny enters. Matsya saves sacred knowledge from disappearing beneath cosmic waters. Matsya is the fish form of Vishnu, and the story has the strange feeling of a memory from the edge of catastrophe. A tiny fish first asks for protection. As it grows larger, its identity becomes impossible to ignore. The world is heading toward a great flood, and Manu is warned to preserve life and sacred wisdom. The fish guides the vessel through overwhelming waters. What makes the tale so compelling is not only survival, it is the preservation of meaning. A civilization can lose buildings and possessions, but the deeper loss would be forgetting what is worth living by. Some people connect flood stories around the world and wonder why this pattern appears so often in ancient cultures. In Hindu tradition, the answer is spiritually charged. Knowledge must be guarded when disorder rises. The smallest sign may become the guide through the largest danger. Wisdom sometimes arrives in a form we would normally overlook. Karma supports the gods when immortality demands impossible cooperation. The churning of the ocean is one of the strangest and most memorable scenes in Hindu mythology. Gods and antigods pull on the serpent Vasuki, using Mount Mandara as the churning rod. The goal is Amrita, the nectar of immortality. Yet the mountain begins to sink, and Vishnu becomes Karma, the great tortoise, to support the whole operation from below. This story feels almost surreal, but its lesson is sharp. Great treasures do not appear without pressure, friction, and support. Even rivals must cooperate when the prize is larger than their conflict. The tortoise form matters because it suggests stability beneath tremendous motion. The visible drama depends on a hidden foundation. Some people read this as a spiritual technology disguised as myth. The ocean becomes the mind. The churning becomes practice. The poison and nectar show that deep work brings danger before it brings blessing. Varaha lifts the earth back from forces of disorder. Varaha is Vishnu in boar form, and the image is unforgettable. The earth has been dragged into the cosmic depths by the demon Hiranyaksha. The divine does not arrive as a polished courtly figure. He comes as a powerful wild boar who dives down and raises the earth on his tusks. This is one of those stories that feels ancient in the bones. It speaks of land recovered from darkness, order restored from below, and life rescued from forces that would bury it. Some people find the animal form especially intriguing because it refuses tidy expectations about holiness. The sacred can enter as something raw, earthy, and forceful. The rescue is not delicate. It is determined. For the listener, the lesson can be surprisingly personal. Sometimes what must be saved in us has sunk very low. Recovery may require a strength that is not elegant, but real. Mohini reveals that divine wisdom can wear bewildering beauty. Mohini is one of Vishnu's most fascinating forms, because the lesson is wrapped in enchantment. During the struggle over the nectar of immortality, the antigod sees what everyone desires. Then Vishnu appears as Mohini, whose beauty disarms their judgment. She persuades them, redirects the nectar, and restores the advantage to the gods. The story is playful on the surface, yet it raises deep questions about perception. What do we do when appearance captures the mind before wisdom can respond? How easily can desire be guided by a form it does not understand? Mohini is not merely a trick. She is intelligence using beauty as strategy. Some people see this as a reminder that truth does not always arrive in a stern voice. It can come through charm, reversal, and surprise. The tale also unsettles simple categories because divinity moves through gender in a way that feels fluid and mysterious. Dhanvantari brings healing into Hindu tradition as a sacred gift. Dhanvantari emerges during the churning of the cosmic ocean, carrying the nectar of immortality and becoming linked with healing knowledge. This detail gives medicine a sacred origin story. Health is not treated as a mere technical problem. It belongs to a larger understanding of balance, timing, nature, and disciplined care. In later tradition, Dhanvantari is honored as a divine physician and associated with Ayurveda. That makes his appearance feel especially important. He comes out of a mythic event where poison also appears, which is striking. The same deep process that produces danger can also reveal medicine. Some people see this as a profound insight into healing itself. The cure often comes from looking carefully at the forces that harmed us. Dhanvantari reminds us that the body is not separate from spiritual life. To restore health is not only to remove pain. It is to bring a person back into harmony. Ashvins show that divine help can arrive with astonishing speed. The Ashvins are twin deities from the Vedic world, often connected with horses, dawn, rescue, and healing. They feel different from many later gods because their stories move quickly. They arrive when someone is in trouble. They restore sight, youth, mobility, or hope. Their presence has the energy of sudden intervention just before the day fully breaks. That makes them fascinating for anyone drawn to mysteries of timing. Why does help sometimes arrive at the last possible moment? Why do certain myths picture healing as something swift, almost like a flash across the horizon? The Ashvins suggest that divine aid can be practical. It can mend, lift, guide, and restore. Some people compare them to ancient symbols of emergency medicine from a sacred age. Yet their deeper lesson is not mechanical. They reveal a universe where compassion can move fast and where recovery may come before despair has the final word. Rudra reveals an early fierce form behind later visions of Shiva. Rudra appears in the Vedic hymns as a terrifying and healing power. He is linked with storms, wild places, arrows, disease, protection, and medicine. That mixture is what makes him so captivating. He can wound, yet he can also cure. He is feared, yet he is also praised. Later traditions connect him strongly with Shiva, and this creates a sense of spiritual evolution across time. The gentle ascetic, the cosmic dancer, and the fierce lord of destruction all have an older, thunderous depth behind them. Some people find Rudra interesting because he does not fit a tidy religious box. He is not safe, but he is not evil. He stands near the raw edge of existence, where danger and healing are strangely close. The lesson is direct. The forces that frighten us may also contain medicine. What feels untamed may still belong to the sacred order. Prajapati shows how creation begins through desire and sacrifice. Prajapati is one of the great ancient figures connected with lordship over creatures and the mystery of bringing life into being. His stories and hymnic associations take us into a world where creation is not simply made by command. It emerges through heat, longing, offering, and the giving up of something essential. That idea can feel strange to modern ears because we often imagine creation as invention or design. In these older layers, it feels more like a sacred cost. Something must be concentrated. Something must be released. Something must become other than itself. Some interpreters see Prajapati as a key to understanding why sacrifice became so important in early ritual thought. The universe itself is imagined through patterns of offering. This gives life a serious dignity. Existence is not cheap. Every birth carries transformation. Every beginning may be linked to a hidden act of surrender. Aditi represents boundless motherhood within the oldest sacred hymns. Aditi is not merely a mother figure in the ordinary sense. Her name carries the sense of what is unbound or limitless. In Vedic tradition, she is associated with the Adityas, a group of important deities connected with order and cosmic guardianship. This makes her feel both maternal and vast. She is not only the mother of children. She represents a spacious source from which divine order can arise. That is a remarkable idea. Motherhood becomes more than family affection. It becomes a cosmic principle. Some people are struck by how ancient this reverence for feminine vastness appears to be. Aditi suggests that before the world can be governed, protected, or measured, it must first be held within a larger openness. Her symbolism is gentle, but immense. It tells us that the sacred does not only command from above. It can also contain, include, and give room for life to appear. Ushas makes the dawn a goddess of renewal and awakening. Ushas is one of the most beautiful figures of the Vedic hymns because her arrival is visible every day. She is dawn, but not merely as a time of morning. She is the opening of possibility. When she appears, darkness withdraws, people rise, fires are lit, and the world becomes active again. The ancient poets praised her as ever young, yet also ancient because she has awakened generations before us. That gives her a haunting quality. Every dawn feels new, but dawn itself is older than memory. Some people see in Ushas a sacred psychology of beginning again. She does not erase yesterday. She reveals the next chance to act. Her power is not loud. It is dependable. In a tradition filled with dramatic battles and cosmic forms, this quiet daily return is just as profound. It says, renewal is not rare. It comes to the horizon again and again. Savitar inspires the Gayatri mantra with solar spiritual power. Savitar is a solar deity whose influence reaches deeply through one of the most revered mantras in Hindu tradition. The Gayatri mantra invokes divine radiance and asks that human understanding be guided. That is a powerful combination. Light is not only outside the body, it becomes a symbol for awakened intelligence. Savitar is not exactly the same as the visible sun in every interpretation. He is the impelling force, the sacred power that sets things moving. This makes the mantra feel less like a request for information and more like a plea for illumination. Some people find it remarkable that a brief verse could become a daily spiritual anchor for countless practitioners. Its focus is not wealth, conquest, or escape. It asks for the mind to be directed rightly. In a world full of confusion, that may be one of the most important prayers imaginable. See clearly. Think truly. Live from that light. Brihaspati teaches that even gods require counsel and wisdom. Brihaspati is known as the priest or teacher of the gods, and that role is more fascinating than it first sounds. If divine beings themselves need guidance, then power alone is not enough. Strength needs interpretation. Victory needs wisdom. Ritual needs knowledge. Strategy needs a steady mind. In many traditions, Brihaspati is connected with sacred speech, instruction, and the planet Jupiter. His presence suggests that the universe is not ruled by force alone. It is also guided by counsel. This has a sharp lesson for human life. The most confident person in the room may not be the wisest. The one who understands timing, meaning, and principle may shape events more deeply than the one holding the weapon. Some people see Brihaspati as an ancient answer to a modern problem. We have enormous power, but we still need teachers. Without wisdom, even the heavenly court can lose its way. Shakti explains divine energy as the active force behind everything. Shakti is one of the great concepts that changes how Hindu divinity is understood. It means power or energy, but not in a vague, decorative way. It is the active force through which reality moves, manifests, and becomes experience. Without Shakti, consciousness remains still. With Shakti, worlds arise, bodies live, thoughts move, and spiritual practice becomes possible. This is why goddess traditions can speak of the feminine divine not as secondary, but as essential. Some people find this idea astonishing because it shifts the question of power. Instead of asking who owns the universe, it asks what animates it. Shakti is not merely strength added onto existence. It is the dynamism through which existence is known. In personal life, this becomes a serious teaching. Your energy is not separate from your spiritual path. How you direct attention, desire, speech, and action may reveal which forces you are serving. Devi traditions place the goddess at the center of reality. In many Hindu traditions, Devi is not simply one goddess among others. She is the supreme reality itself. This is a major shift for anyone who assumes ancient religion must always place masculine divinity at the top. Texts and devotional movements centered on the goddess can describe her as creator, sustainer, destroyer, mother, ruler, and liberating wisdom. The gods themselves may depend on her power. That reversal is what makes these traditions so fascinating. The feminine divine is not only nurturing, it can be sovereign, philosophical, terrifying, tender, and absolute. Some people are amazed to discover how intellectually rich goddess worship can be. It is not only emotion or fertility symbolism. It includes metaphysics, ritual, mantra, theology, and deep meditation. Devi becomes the mystery from which all forms arise. For the listener, the lesson is expansive. Reality may not be best understood as a throne above the world, but as the power alive within it. Ardhanarishvara shows masculine and feminine principles sharing one body. Ardhanarishvara is the form in which Shiva and Parvati appear as one being, half male and half female. The image is visually direct, but the meaning is deep. It does not present union as a vague idea. It makes unity visible in the body itself. Masculine and feminine are not enemies fighting for control. They are complementary principles within a larger wholeness. Some people read this as a statement about cosmic balance. Others see it as a profound psychological symbol. Every person contains energies of stillness and movement, detachment and relationship, austerity and creativity. When one side tries to erase the other, life becomes distorted. The image also challenges rigid assumptions about divine identity. The sacred is not trapped inside one human category. It can hold difference without division. Ardhanarishvara teaches that completeness is not sameness. It is the harmony of powers that appear opposite until we see them together. Harihara unites Vishnu and Shiva in a single sacred form. Harihara brings together two of Hinduism's most powerful devotional streams. One side is Vishnu, the other side is Shiva. The combined form is not just a clever artistic invention. It makes a serious statement about unity beneath difference. Devotees may love one deity with special intensity, yet the tradition also produces images that refuse rivalry. The sacred can be approached through preservation and through transformation. It can be honored as the protector of cosmic order and as the Lord who dissolves illusion. Some people see Harihara as a reminder that religious categories often become sharper in human minds than they are in divine reality. The image says that what appears divided may be one when viewed from a higher perspective. This is especially interesting in a world where identity can harden into conflict. Harihara does not erase devotion. It deepens it by suggesting that truth may be larger than our preferred doorway. Trimurti presents creation, preservation, and dissolution as one cycle. The Trimurti brings Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva into a single pattern of cosmic process. Creation appears. Preservation sustains it. Dissolution clears the way for what comes next. This is not a simple lineup of three gods doing separate jobs. It is a vision of reality as rhythm. Nothing exists by beginning alone. Nothing can be preserved forever without change. Nothing ends without making space for renewal. That makes the Trimurti one of the most powerful philosophical ideas in Hindu thought. Some people connect it with nature, psychology, civilizations, and personal growth. A project is born, maintained, and eventually transformed. A belief forms, guides us, and one day must be released. The cycle can be frightening when we cling to only one stage. The teaching becomes liberating when we see all three as necessary. Existence is not a straight line. It is an intelligent pattern of appearing, lasting, and letting go. Avatars show divinity entering the world when balance weakens. The avatar idea is one of the most gripping features of Hindu tradition. It says the divine does not remain outside history when disorder becomes severe. It descends, appears, or manifests in a form suited to the crisis. That form might be human, animal, royal, humble, terrifying, or unexpectedly playful. The key is that each appearance has a purpose. This makes the world feel watched in a very unusual way. Not watched in the sense of constant punishment, but watched through concern for balance. Some people are fascinated by the possibility that sacred intervention adapts to the age. If the problem changes, the form of help changes. The idea also turns myth into moral diagnosis. Each avatar reveals what has gone wrong. Pride, violence, forgetfulness, and disorder each call forth a different response. For the listener, the lesson is immediate. Help may not look like the help we expected. Lila presents the universe as divine play rather than accident. Lila is a startling idea because it reframes existence. Instead of treating the universe as a grim machine or a meaningless accident, it presents creation as divine play. This does not mean life is unserious. Suffering is not denied. Duty is not dismissed. Yet beneath the drama, there is a sense that reality is expressing itself with freedom, creativity, and mysterious delight. Krishna's childhood stories often make this idea vivid. The divine steals butter, charms villagers, plays music, and bends ordinary rules. Some people find this almost shocking. Why would ultimate reality be playful? The answer may be that play is not trivial. It is one of the deepest signs of freedom. A being that lacks nothing does not create out of need. It creates from fullness. Leela invites us to wonder whether existence is more than survival. Perhaps the cosmos is also expression, relationship, and the joy of becoming visible. Dharma becomes clearer through the choices of gods and heroes. Dharma is one of those words that cannot be reduced to a single English equivalent. It can mean duty, law, right order, moral responsibility, and the way something holds together. The genius of Hindu storytelling is that Dharma is rarely left as an abstract concept. It is tested through choices. A king must decide how to rule. A warrior must face moral paralysis. A spouse must endure a cruel trial. A god must take a form suited to a broken age. Through these stories, listeners see that right action depends on context, character, and consequence. Some people love this because it feels more realistic than simple rule-following. Life often gives us tangled situations rather than clean answers. Dharma asks us to pay attention to the role we occupy and the truth of the moment. It is not only what we believe, it is what we are willing to do when belief becomes difficult. Bhakti makes love a direct path toward the divine. Bhakti changed religious life by making devotion central. The path does not belong only to scholars, priests, renouncers, or people trained in difficult philosophy. A person can turn toward the divine through love. That love may take the form of song, remembrance, service, surrender, or intimate longing. This is why Krishna, Rama, Shiva, Devi, and other deities become so personal to devotees. They are not only cosmic principles, they are beloved presences. Some people find bhakti powerful because it bypasses the coldness that spiritual practice can sometimes develop. The heart becomes an instrument of knowledge. To love deeply is to be changed by what one loves. In many devotional movements, the ordinary social rank of a person matters less than sincerity. That makes bhakti spiritually radical. It says the door to the sacred may open through tears, music, trust, and the simple act of calling a divine name. Karma gives divine stories a moral architecture that still matters. Karma is often misunderstood as simple reward and punishment, but it is more subtle than that. It is the principle that actions carry consequences, and those consequences help shape future experience. In Hindu stories, even gods, sages, kings, and demons move within patterns of cause and result. A careless vow can change a destiny. A harsh act can return later in unexpected form. A disciplined practice can generate tremendous power. This gives myth a kind of moral engineering. Nothing is weightless. The universe remembers. Some people are drawn to karma because it feels like an alternative to randomness. It does not always offer instant justice, and that is important. Its timescale can be vast. The result may unfold across lifetimes, or through subtle shifts of character. For the listener, the teaching is sobering. Every thought, word, and deed participates in the structure of what comes next. We are building tomorrow with today's intentions. Moksha gives Hindu gods a horizon beyond worldly success. Moksha means liberation, and it changes the meaning of spiritual life. Without it, religion could become only a search for protection, prosperity, victory, or heavenly reward. With it, the final aim becomes freedom from bondage itself. Hindu gods can help with worldly concerns, but the deepest traditions point beyond temporary achievement. The soul seeks release from ignorance, craving, and the cycle of rebirth. This gives the entire mythology a hidden vertical depth. A story about a god defeating a demon may also be about consciousness overcoming limitation. A ritual for blessing may also remind the devotee that no possession can satisfy the deepest hunger. Some people find this idea quietly mind-blowing. The highest goal is not to improve the prison. It is to awaken from captivity. Moksha asks whether success is enough if the self remains bound. It points toward a freedom that cannot be measured by status. Maya explains why divine reality often hides beneath appearances. Maya is often translated as illusion, but that can be misleading if we take it to mean that the world is simply fake. A better way to hear it is as the power of appearance. things show themselves in ways that capture the mind, and the mind mistakes the surface for the whole truth. This is why the concept is so fascinating. It explains how people can live surrounded by reality and still not see clearly. We identify with roles, possessions, fears, desires, and stories about ourselves. Then we suffer when these shifting things change. In some traditions, Maya is not merely an obstacle. It is also divine power, because appearance itself belongs to the mystery of manifestation. Some people are drawn to this because it sounds almost like ancient simulation talk, though the tradition is far deeper. The central question remains sharp. What are we taking as final that may only be passing appearance? Yoga connects human discipline with the powers shown by deities. Yoga is far more than stretching or relaxation. In Hindu traditions, it can mean disciplined union, concentrated practice, and a method for transforming consciousness. This matters when we hear stories about gods and sages performing astonishing acts. The tradition often links extraordinary power with attention, austerity, breath, mantra, and moral restraint. In other words, the human being is not treated as spiritually helpless. There are practices that refine perception and redirect energy. Some people become fascinated by yoga because it suggests that consciousness has hidden capacities. The body, breath, and mind are not random parts thrown together. They can be trained into alignment. The deities then become more than distant figures. They show possibilities of mastery, focus, compassion, and freedom. The real lesson is practical. A scattered life produces scattered results. A disciplined life may uncover dimensions of the self that ordinary habit keeps asleep. Mantras treat divine names as living sounds with inner force. A mantra is not just a religious slogan. In Hindu practice, sacred sound can be treated as a form of presence. The name of a deity is not merely a label pointing towards something absent. It can be a doorway into the power it names. This is why repetition matters so much. The sound is allowed to shape attention, breath, memory, and feeling. Over time, the practitioner is not only saying the mantra is working on the practitioner. Some people find this idea deeply intriguing because it suggests language has more than informational value. Sound can organize consciousness. It can steady the nervous system. It can bind the mind to a sacred pattern. Different mantras carry different associations, and some are received through tradition rather than invented casually. The deeper teaching is that speech is creative. What we repeat does not remain outside us. It gradually builds the inner world. Murtis make sacred presence visible without limiting the divine. A murti is often misunderstood by outsiders as an idol in the simplest sense. In Hindu practice, the idea is more subtle. The form is not usually treated as the totality of the divine trapped in stone or metal. It is a focused presence, a place where worship can become direct. The human mind often needs form in order to relate. A murti gives sight, gesture, ornament, and expression to a reality that exceeds all images. This creates a fascinating tension. The divine is beyond form, yet form can help people encounter it. Rituals of consecration may invite presence into the image, making the relationship feel alive. Some people compare this to the way a photograph is not the person, yet can carry emotional power. The murti goes further because it becomes part of devotion. It teaches that the visible world need not block the sacred. It can become transparent to it. Puja turns daily attention into a relationship with the sacred. A puja can be simple enough to happen at home, yet deep enough to carry an entire worldview. A lamp is lit. Water is offered. Flowers are placed. Food is given before it is received back as blessing. To an outsider, these gestures may look small. Inside the tradition, they train the heart to recognize presence. The divine is not approached only through grand ideas. It is approached through care. That makes puja fascinating as a spiritual technology of attention. The devotee cleans a space, prepares the mind, and treats the deity as an honored guest. This creates a shift that is easy to underestimate. Ordinary action becomes deliberate. The body participates. The senses become part of devotion. Some people see in puja a powerful antidote to modern distraction. It says, relationship is built through repeated attention. What we honor each day slowly becomes the center around which life is organized. Temples are designed as bodies where divine presence can dwell. A Hindu temple is not only a gathering place. In many traditions, it is built as a sacred body and a cosmic diagram. The innermost chamber can feel like the heart of the structure. The tower rises above it like an axis linking earth and heaven. Movement through the temple becomes a journey inward. That is why the design can feel so charged, even before a word is spoken. The visitor does not merely look at architecture. The visitor enters a patterned world where proportion, direction, sound, scent, and ritual all work together. Some people find this astonishing because it suggests ancient builders were not only constructing monuments, they were shaping experience. The temple trains perception. It slows the body. It guides the gaze toward the deity. In that carefully ordered space, the sacred is not treated as an idea floating somewhere else. It is given a dwelling that human beings can enter. Festivals make divine stories return through community memory and practice. A festival does something that a book cannot do by itself. It brings a story back into the streets, homes, songs, food, colors, lamps, and bodies of a community. The past is not treated as dead material. It is reactivated. People do not only remember a divine event, they step into its rhythm again. That is why Hindu festivals can feel so immersive. A child may learn theology through a suite, a procession, a costume, or a night of staying awake with family. The teaching enters through participation before it becomes explanation. Some people see festivals as cultural time machines because they carry older worlds into the present without freezing them. Each generation repeats the pattern and also adds its own feeling. The result is living memory. The divine story survives not only because someone wrote it down, but because people keep making it visible at the turning points of the year. Diwali connects Lakshmi, Rama, and inner light in different traditions. Diwali is famous for lamps, yet its meanings vary across regions and communities. To some, it celebrates the return of Rama after exile and victory. For others, it is closely tied to Lakshmi and the welcoming of prosperity. In some traditions, it also carries themes of renewal, accounting, and the clearing of darkness. What makes the festival so powerful is that light becomes both visible and moral. A lamp in a doorway is not only decoration. It says something about readiness. It marks a home that wants blessing to enter. It also suggests that darkness is not defeated by complaint, but by illumination. Some people are fascinated by how one festival can hold several sacred memories without losing its center. Diwali becomes a shared act of turning toward brightness. The deeper lesson is not merely that light exists. It must be tended, placed, protected, and invited into ordinary life. Navaratri honors the goddess through 9 nights of disciplined devotion. Navaratri gives time itself to the goddess. For 9 nights, devotees honor her power in forms that may be protective, fierce, nurturing, or wisdom-giving. The festival can include fasting, music, dance, ritual, storytelling, and prayer. But its deeper force lies in sustained attention. One night would be celebration. 9 nights become discipline. The devotee returns again and again, allowing the mind to be shaped by the presence being honored. In many traditions, the festival culminates in the victory of divine power over a force of disorder. That makes the timing feel dramatic. The darkness of night becomes a space of preparation rather than fear. Some people are drawn to Navaratri because it presents feminine divinity as active cosmic strength. The goddess is not passive. She rises, confronts, protects, and restores. The teaching is clear. Some victories require devotion that continues after the first burst of emotion has passed. Holi remembers divine love through color, play, and renewal. Holi is often seen as joyful chaos, but its sacred background gives that joy a sharper meaning. The festival is linked with stories of devotion, protection, and the triumph of faith over arrogance. It is also associated in many places with Krishna and the playful sweetness of divine love. Color becomes the great equalizer. For a brief time, social surfaces blur. People who usually guard their image become part of a shared burst of celebration. This is not random mess. It is ritualized release. Some people find Holi fascinating because it turns spiritual memory into play without making it shallow. The body is marked. The face is changed. The usual boundaries loosen. The world looks different because people have agreed to see it differently for a day. The deeper lesson is that renewal is not always solemn. Sometimes the soul is reminded of freedom through laughter, color, and forgiven distance. Mahashivaratri turns wakefulness into devotion to Shiva's mystery. Mahashivaratri is a night of vigil, and that detail matters. While ordinary life moves towards sleep, devotees remain awake for Shiva. The practice may include fasting, prayer, offerings, mantra, and visits to temples, but the central mood is inward attention. Night becomes a sacred testing ground. Can the mind remain turned toward the divine when the body wants ease? Can darkness become a doorway rather than a distraction? Some traditions connect the night with Shiva's cosmic dance, his union with Parvati, or his manifestation as an infinite pillar of light. Each interpretation points toward a mystery beyond ordinary measurement. Some people are captivated by the idea of staying awake not for entertainment, but for transformation. In a restless age, that feels almost radical. The festival teaches that spiritual life sometimes asks us to pass through discomfort with purpose. Wakefulness becomes an offering, and stillness becomes a way of listening. Janmashtami celebrates Krishna's birth as joy entering a troubled world. Krishna is born under threat, and that gives Janmashtami its dramatic power. The story begins in a prison, under the rule of a fearful king who has heard a prophecy of his own downfall. The divine child arrives in secrecy. He is carried through danger. He is hidden among cowherds, where his life will unfold with mischief, beauty, and astonishing depth. This is not a simple birth story. It is a reversal. Power sits on the throne, but hope enters through vulnerability. Some people find this one of the most moving patterns in sacred storytelling. The future does not always announce itself with armies. Sometimes it arrives as a child who must be protected. Janmashtami is celebrated with fasting, singing, midnight worship, and scenes from Krishna's early life. The deeper teaching is that joy can appear even when fear seems to control the world. Ganesha Chaturthi makes public devotion feel intimate and communal. Ganesha Chaturthi has a remarkable emotional range. It begins with bringing Ganesha into homes and public spaces, often in beautifully crafted images. For days, people offer prayers, sweets, music, and attention. The deity feels close, almost like a beloved guest who has come to stay for a while. Then comes immersion, when the image is carried to water and released. This movement from welcome to farewell is what gives the festival its depth. Devotion becomes public, but it remains personal. Crowds gather, yet each person may feel a private connection. Some people find the immersion especially powerful because it turns impermanence into ritual. The form is cherished, honored, and then surrendered. That is not a loss of meaning. It is part of the meaning. The festival teaches that sacred presence can be invited into ordinary life, loved intensely, and released without being truly gone. Ratha Yatra brings Jagannath into the streets for everyone. Ratha Yatra is extraordinary because the deity leaves the temple. Jagannath, along with Balabhadra and Subhadra, is placed on massive chariots and drawn through the streets of Puri. The movement itself carries the message. The sacred does not remain hidden in the innermost chamber. It comes out into public view. People who might not normally enter the temple can see and honor the Lord of the universe as he travels among them. That is why the festival has such emotional force. It turns distance into nearness. It makes theology roll on wheels. Some people are fascinated by the scale of the chariots and the intensity of the crowd, but the deeper idea is even more compelling. Divine presence becomes mobile. It crosses thresholds. It allows the street to become a temporary sacred route. For a listener, the lesson is memorable. The highest reality may sometimes move toward the people first. Ayodhya keeps Rama's story alive as a sacred geography. Ayodhya is not only a place on a map. For millions of devotees, it is a landscape charged with memory. It is associated with Rama's birth and with the moral world of the Ramayana. That makes the city feel like a meeting point between story and soil. The epic is not merely heard, it is located. Pilgrims can walk through a place believed to carry the imprint of divine life. This is one of the most fascinating features of sacred geography. A location becomes more than its buildings or streets. It becomes a vessel of meaning. Some people find this powerful because it shows how memory can reshape space. The city is approached not only through politics or history, but through devotion, longing, and identity. Ayodhya teaches that stories become stronger when people can stand where they believe the story touched the earth. Vrindavan remembers Krishna through love, music, and childhood wonder. Vrindavan is sacred because it holds the atmosphere of Krishna's early life in devotional memory. It is linked with cowherd communities, playful episodes, flute music, and the love of the gopis. The fascination here is that the divine is not only majestic, it is intimate. Krishna is remembered as a child, a friend, and the beloved who draws souls through beauty. This changes the emotional tone of spirituality. Awe remains, but affection moves to the center. Some people are struck by how a town can become a living theater of remembrance. Songs, temples, festivals, and daily practices keep the mood of Krishna's presence alive. The stories are not treated as distant mythology. They are re-entered through devotion. Vrindavan teaches that sacred power does not always appear as command. Sometimes it appears as attraction. The heart follows before the intellect finishes explaining why. Kashi is revered as a city especially dear to Shiva. Kashi, also known as Varanasi, is among the most sacred cities in Hindu tradition. Its association with Shiva gives it a unique spiritual intensity. Devotees believe that to be in Kashi is to stand in a place where liberation feels especially near. The city is linked with temples, river rituals, cremation grounds, chanting, and pilgrimage. Yet its deeper power lies in confrontation with truth. Life and death are not hidden from one another there. They exist in close view. Some people find Kashi unsettling for that reason. Others find it strangely peaceful. The city seems to say that mortality is not an interruption of spirituality. It is one of its great teachers. Shiva's presence in Kashi gives the place a sense of fierce compassion. The world may change, the body may pass, and identities may fall away, but the search for freedom continues at the edge of everything familiar. Tirupati draws millions toward Vishnu as Venkataswara each year. Tirupati is one of the most visited pilgrimage centers in the world, and its scale is astonishing. Devotees come to honor Venkataswara, a form of Vishnu, also known as the Lord of the Seven Hills. The journey is not only about seeing a deity, it is about offering, waiting, surrendering, and entering a current of devotion shared by countless others. Many pilgrims give hair as an act of humility, which makes the body itself part of the vow. That single practice says a great deal. Before the divine, beauty and pride can be laid down. Some people are fascinated by the organization, wealth, and human movement surrounding the temple, but the deeper force is faith sustained at massive scale. Tirupati shows that devotion can become a civilization of its own. Every day, personal prayers become part of a vast river of human longing directed toward one sacred form. Puri worships Jagannath with rituals that feel ancient and distinctive. Puri's Jagannath tradition has a character unlike almost anything else in Hindu devotion. The wooden forms of Jagannath, Balabhadra, and Subhadra are visually striking, with large, round eyes and a powerful simplicity that draws immediate attention. Their appearance feels both ancient and intimate. The rituals of the temple include food offerings on a remarkable scale, special festivals, and periodic renewal of the wooden images. That renewal is especially intriguing because it treats divine embodiment as something that can be ritually transferred and refreshed. Some people see in Jagannath a meeting point of tribal, regional, and pan-Hindu traditions. The result is not a neat textbook category. It is a living mystery with deep local roots and universal reach. Puri teaches that the sacred does not always conform to polished expectations. Sometimes the most powerful form is the one that looks almost unlike anything else, and yet feels unmistakably alive. Madurai honors Meenakshi as a queenly form of the goddess. Madurai's Meenakshi tradition gives the goddess royal presence. She is not merely the consort of a male deity. She is a ruling power, associated with the great temple at the heart of the city. Her story includes birth, sovereignty, marriage, and divine authority, which makes her one of the most compelling regional forms of the goddess. The temple itself reinforces this grandeur through towering gateways covered with sacred figures. A visitor is not entering a small devotional corner. The visitor steps into a universe organized around divine queenship. Some people find Meenakshi fascinating because she carries both beauty and command. She is approachable to devotees, yet she also represents power that governs a city's sacred imagination. Her marriage to Sundaraswara is celebrated with enormous devotion, but her identity is not swallowed by that union. Madurai teaches that feminine divinity can stand at the center of civic, spiritual, and cosmic life. Chidambaram presents Shiva's dance as the secret of consciousness. Chidambaram is deeply associated with Shiva as Nataraja, but its meaning goes beyond the famous dancing form. The temple is linked with the idea of sacred space as consciousness itself. One of its most intriguing features is the Chidambara Rahasya, often described as the secret of Chidambaram. This mystery points toward the worship of empty space, suggesting that the divine can be present not only in form, but also in the unseen. That idea is quietly astonishing. After all the images, rituals, and architecture, the final secret may be space itself. Some people are captivated by this because it feels almost like metaphysics hidden inside temple practice. The sacred is visible as a dancer, yet also invisible as awareness. Chidambaram does not force the listener to choose between image and emptiness. It holds both. The teaching is subtle and direct. What you seek may be the consciousness by which seeking is possible. Kamakhya honors feminine divinity through creation, fertility, and sacred power. Kamakhya in Assam is one of the most important goddess temples in India, and its symbolism is unusually direct. The deity is associated with the generative power of the feminine, and the temple is connected with themes of fertility, embodiment, and creative force. This makes it both sacred and startling for many listeners. The tradition does not separate spirituality from the power by which life appears. It honors that power. The annual Ambubachi festival is often linked with the goddess's cycle, and the temple closes during that period before reopening with great devotion. Some people find this remarkable because it treats natural biological rhythms as spiritually meaningful rather than shameful. Kamakhya belongs to the wider world of Shakta and Tantric practice, where energy, body, and liberation are explored in intense ways. The lesson is profound. Creation is not a side issue in spiritual life. It is one of the gateways into mystery. Sita teaches dignity when loyalty is tested by suffering. Sita's story is one of the most emotionally powerful parts of the Ramayana. She is remembered for devotion, courage, endurance, and moral strength under extreme pressure. Her abduction by Ravana places her in danger, but the deeper drama is how she maintains dignity when her outer circumstances are taken from her. She does not become weak because she is captive. Her refusal to yield becomes a different kind of strength. Later parts of her story are painful and debated, especially where public suspicion and personal loyalty collide. That is why she continues to matter. She does not offer an easy lesson. She forces listeners to confront how society treats purity, trust, and suffering. Some people see her as the quiet center of the epic's moral weight. Rama may represent duty, but Sita reveals the cost borne by those caught inside it. Her strength is not loud. It is unbreakable. Radha transforms longing into one of Hinduism's deepest devotional paths. Radha's importance cannot be measured only by the number of stories about her. It lies in the emotional depth she brings to Krishna devotion. She represents longing so intense that separation itself becomes spiritual. That idea may sound strange until we feel its force. In ordinary love, absence is usually pain. In Radha's devotional world, absence can sharpen remembrance until the beloved fills the entire heart. This becomes a major path for understanding the soul's relationship with the divine. The devotee is not satisfied with distant respect. The devotee yearns. Some people find Radha fascinating because she shifts spirituality from obedience to intimacy. Her love is not casual affection. It is total orientation. In many later traditions, she becomes essential to understanding Krishna, because divine love is fully revealed through the one who loves him most deeply. Radha teaches that longing can be more than emptiness. It can become a sacred fire. Draupadi is honored as a fierce figure of dignity and justice. Draupadi stands at the moral center of the Mahabharata in a way that cannot be ignored. Born from fire, married to the 5 Pandava brothers, and humiliated in a royal court, she becomes a force that exposes the failure of powerful men. Her famous appeal during the dice game is not merely a scene of suffering. It is an indictment. Elders, warriors, and kings sit silent while injustice unfolds. Draupadi's question cuts through the room more sharply than any weapon. Who has the right to stake another human being? That moment still feels explosive because it challenges law without conscience. Some people see her as one of the great truth speakers of epic literature. She does not accept false dignity from corrupt authority. Her anger is not petty. It is morally awake. Draupadi teaches that justice sometimes begins when someone refuses to let a comfortable room remain comfortable. Andal shows how poetry can become total devotion to Vishnu. Andal is one of the most beloved poet saints of Tamil devotional tradition. Her life is remembered through love for Vishnu so complete that poetry became her path. She did not write as a detached observer. She spoke as one consumed by divine longing. Her verses bring together devotion, beauty, ritual imagination, and personal surrender. What makes Andal especially fascinating is that she enters a tradition where the voice of a young woman becomes spiritually authoritative. She is not merely praised for obedience. She is remembered for intensity. Her songs are still recited, especially during the month of Margashi, when communities enter the mood of her devotion. Some people find her story astonishing because it shows literature becoming liturgy. Words do not stay on the page. They become practice, memory, and shared feeling. Andal teaches that language can cross a threshold. When speech is filled with love, it can become worship. Mariamman protects many communities through healing and village devotion. Mariamman is widely revered in South Indian village traditions, often associated with protection, rain, heat, and healing from disease. Her worship shows a side of Hinduism that is deeply local and practical. People turn to her not only for abstract liberation, but for relief from suffering that touches the body and the community. This makes her devotion immediate. The goddess is not far away in a cosmic palace. She is near the fields, homes, streets, and anxieties of ordinary people. Festivals dedicated to her can be intense, emotional, and communal, with vows, offerings, and rituals of endurance. Some people are fascinated by village goddesses because they preserve ancient layers of religious life that do not always fit neat philosophical summaries. Mariamman teaches that sacred power is not only found in grand temples or polished theology. It is also found where people ask to be protected, healed, and kept alive through the next season. Ayyappa unites different traditions through discipline, pilgrimage, and restraint. Ayyappa is especially associated with the pilgrimage to Sabarimala, where devotees undertake vows before making the journey. The discipline can include celibacy, simplicity, dietary restriction, prayer, and a period of self-control that prepares the body and mind. This is what makes the devotion so compelling. The pilgrimage is not just travel. It is transformation before arrival. Ayyappa is often linked with a remarkable union of traditions, including stories that connect Shiva, Vishnu, and regional worship. Devotees greet one another as Swami, which can create a sense of shared sacred identity during the vow. Some people find this fascinating because it temporarily rearranges ordinary social life. The pilgrim is trained to see divinity in the fellow pilgrim. Hardship becomes part of the offering. The forest path, the climb, and the discipline all work together. Ayyappa teaches that the destination matters, but the person who arrives must not be the same one who began. Jagannath means Lord of the universe, yet welcomes local intimacy. Jagannath carries a title of cosmic scale, but his worship often feels intensely personal and regional. That contrast is part of his mystery. He is the Lord of the universe, yet he is also loved in Odisha through food, festivals, songs, and stories that feel close to everyday life. His form is unlike the classical images many people expect. The large eyes, wooden body, and simplified shape create a presence that is direct and unforgettable. Some people are struck by how universal and local his identity becomes at the same time. He belongs to the whole cosmos, but also to a specific place with distinctive rituals and emotional textures. This challenges the idea that universality must be abstract. Jagannath shows another possibility. The infinite can become most powerful through a beloved local form. The teaching is simple and deep. The vast does not have to remain distant. It can sit at the table. Balabhadra reveals strength beside Jagannath in Odisha's devotional world. Balabhadra stands with Jagannath and Subhadra in the sacred triad of Puri, and his presence adds a powerful dimension to the tradition. He is often associated with Balarama, the elder brother of Krishna, and carries meanings of strength, agriculture, protection, and steadiness. In the Puri context, he is not a background figure. He has his own chariot, his own identity, and his own devotional importance. This matters because sacred families and divine groupings are rarely accidental. Each presence changes the meaning of the others. Balabhadra brings firmness beside Jagannath's vast and mysterious personality. Some people notice his connection with the plough, which links divine strength with the earth and cultivation. That makes him feel grounded rather than remote. His lesson is not only about power in battle. It is about the strength that supports life, feeds communities, and holds a sacred world together through dependable force. Subhadra stands between divine brothers with her own sacred presence. Subhadra occupies the central place between Jagannath and Balabhadra in the Puri triad, and that position carries quiet significance. She is not merely placed there for symmetry. Her presence shapes the devotional field around her. In broader epic tradition, Subhadra is Krishna's sister and the mother of Abhimanyu, which connects her with tenderness, lineage, and heroic memory. In Jagannath worship, she becomes part of a distinctive sacred arrangement that millions recognize instantly. Some people find her fascinating because she represents a form of divinity that does not need dramatic weapons or loud stories to matter. She stands, she belongs, and she completes the triad. That itself is a teaching. Not every sacred role is defined by conquest or command. Some presences hold relationship together. Some become central by being the heart between powers. Subhadra reminds listeners that the divine feminine can be quiet in appearance and still essential in meaning. Murugan inspires intense devotion across Tamil culture and beyond. Murugan is one of the most beloved deities in Tamil tradition, and his devotion carries a distinctive emotional force. He is youthful, radiant, courageous, and deeply connected with hills, poetry, spear symbolism, and refined spiritual insight. His sacred centers in Tamil Nadu are not just pilgrimage sites. They are part of a cultural landscape where language, devotion, and identity meet. Some traditions present him as a warrior who defeats dark forces. Others honor him as a teacher of wisdom, even to Shiva himself. That reversal is astonishing. The son becomes the guru of the father. It suggests that truth can arrive through youth, as well as age. Murugan's spear, the vel, is often understood as a weapon that pierces ignorance. Devotees may approach him with vows, songs, and acts of endurance. The lesson is sharp and uplifting. Spiritual maturity is not measured only by years. It is measured by clarity. Venkateswara is associated with one of the world's richest temples. Venkateswara of Tirumala is connected with a temple whose wealth and devotion have become famous worldwide. Yet the most interesting part is not simply the money. It is the way giving becomes part of a sacred relationship. Devotees offer coins, jewelry, hair, time, labor, and prayer, often with deep personal vows behind them. The temple economy is vast, but at its heart are individual acts of trust. A person comes with fear, gratitude, hope, or a promise remembered from a difficult hour. That makes the wealth symbolic before it is financial. It represents millions of stories flowing toward one divine presence. Some people are fascinated by how an ancient pilgrimage can operate at modern scale without losing its devotional intensity. Venkateswara is often seen as a compassionate form who bears the burdens of devotees. The lesson is that abundance becomes meaningful when it is tied to surrender, gratitude, and service. Narayana presents Vishnu as the cosmic ground of existence. Narayana is one of the most profound names of Vishnu because it points beyond a single story or temple image. It evokes the divine as the ground in which beings live, rest, and arise. In some traditions, Narayana reclines upon the cosmic serpent in the causal ocean, while creation unfolds through a vast mystery of sleep, breath, and awakening. This is not ordinary rest. It is cosmic potential. The universe is pictured as emerging from a depth that already contains intelligence and order. Some people find this image astonishing because it makes existence feel less like an accident and more like a revelation from hidden consciousness. Narayana is both personal and immeasurable. A devotee can pray to him, yet philosophy can also speak of him as the foundation of all. The teaching is expansive. Beneath the changing world may be a sustaining presence so deep that everything depends on it without noticing. Govinda shows Krishna as protector of cows and loving communities. Govinda is one of Krishna's most tender names, but it carries more than rural sweetness. It points to a world where divinity stands close to daily survival. Cows meant food, stability, livelihood, and social continuity, so protecting them was not a decorative role. It placed Krishna inside the fragile center of village life. The famous lifting of Govardhan Hill gives this name enormous force. When the people are threatened by storm, Krishna does not answer with distant command. He shelters the entire community beneath a mountain held like an umbrella. Some people love this story because it turns a pastoral scene into something almost cosmic. A boy among cowherds becomes the axis of protection for everyone around him. The lesson is direct. Sacred greatness is not only found in palaces or battlefields. It may be revealed wherever life must be guarded, wherever trust gathers, and wherever a community discovers that love can become shelter. Gopala presents the divine through childhood tenderness and rural life. Gopala means cowherd or protector of cows, and it brings Krishna into one of the most intimate religious moods in Hindu devotion. Here, the divine is not first encountered as a ruler, judge, or distant creator. He is a child who must be fed, watched, chased, and adored. This is a stunning reversal. The devotee does not only ask God for protection. The devotee protects God in the form of a beloved child. That emotional logic changes everything. It draws out affection, patience, playfulness, and care. Stories of young Krishna stealing butter are not just cute episodes. They reveal a sacred presence that enters homes and disrupts ordinary seriousness. Some people find this spiritually radical because it makes tenderness a path of worship. Rural life becomes the setting for divine nearness. The lesson is that ultimate reality may come close enough to be held, loved, corrected, and missed. Balarama carries strength linked with farming, duty, and ancestral power. Balarama is often remembered as Krishna's elder brother, but his own identity is strong and distinct. He carries the plough, which links him not only with physical might, but with cultivation itself. This is important. The plough turns hard ground into a place where life can grow. His strength is therefore not merely force against an enemy. It is strength that prepares the earth. In some traditions, he is connected with the serpent Shesha, which adds a deeper layer of cosmic support beneath his agricultural symbolism. Some people are intrigued by this combination. A figure who seems grounded in fields and village life may also carry hints of something vast and ancient. Balarama teaches that power must not float above the soil. It should serve food, order, family, and continuity. His presence beside Krishna reminds us that divine play needs a strong foundation beneath it. Hayagriva connects Vishnu with learning, memory, and sacred knowledge. Hayagriva is a horse-headed form of Vishnu associated with wisdom and the recovery of sacred knowledge. The image immediately catches attention because it is so unusual. A divine human body with a horse's head feels like a symbol from the edge of imagination, yet the meaning is precise. Knowledge can be lost, stolen, obscured, or forgotten, and the divine must sometimes appear in a startling form to restore it. In several traditions, Hayagriva becomes a patron of learning, especially for those who seek clarity of mind. The horse symbolism suggests vitality, speed, and alertness, which makes the connection with intelligence feel alive rather than dry. Some people find this figure fascinating because he treats memory as sacred. Forgetfulness is not a small problem when wisdom disappears from a culture. Hayagriva teaches that learning is not merely personal improvement. It can be the rescue of a whole world's inner order. Garuda serves Vishnu while symbolizing speed, courage, and liberation. Garuda is the great eagle-like mount of Vishnu, and he is far more than divine transport. His presence brings the feeling of upward force. He moves through the sky with speed and authority, carrying the preserver of the universe across realms. In many stories, he is also a fierce enemy of serpents, which gives him a dramatic symbolic charge. The bird that rises and the serpent that coils create a powerful contrast. Some people read this as the struggle between freedom and entanglement, although the tradition holds many meanings at once. Garuda's own story includes courage, devotion, and the winning of freedom through extraordinary effort. That makes him one of the most thrilling companion figures in Hindu mythology. He is not passive beside Vishnu. He is loyal strength in motion. The lesson is that service does not have to mean smallness. True service can become flight. Nandi waits before Shiva as a model of patient devotion. Nandi is usually seen seated before Shiva's shrine, facing the inner sanctum with complete attention. That image can be easy to pass by, but it contains a profound teaching. The sacred bull does not rush. He does not demand spectacle. He waits, watches, and remains oriented toward Shiva. In temples, devotees often see the deity through the line of Nandi's gaze, which makes him part of the act of worship itself. His stillness becomes guidance. Some people find this fascinating because Nandi represents strength that has accepted discipline. A bull can symbolize force, fertility, and power, yet here that power is calm and directed. He teaches that devotion is not only emotional intensity, it is posture, patience, and steady orientation. In a world trained to chase novelty, Nandi offers a different form of greatness. Stay turned toward what is highest. Let attention become loyalty. The Suki shows how serpents can belong to sacred cosmic work. The Suki is the serpent used as the rope in the churning of the ocean, and that role places him inside one of Hindu mythology's grandest scenes. The gods and antigods pull from opposite sides, while the ocean is churned for hidden treasures. A serpent becomes the living instrument of cosmic extraction. This is fascinating, because serpents in many cultures are treated with fear, suspicion, or mystery. Here, the serpent is not simply an enemy. He is part of the process that brings medicine, wealth, poison, and immortality to the surface. Some people find this almost alchemical. The deep world cannot be opened by polite tools alone. It requires tension, risk, and the handling of dangerous forces. The Suki teaches that not everything frightening should be rejected. Some powers must be respected and used with care. The same force that can terrify may also help reveal what lies hidden beneath existence. Shesha supports Vishnu and suggests infinity beneath visible reality. Shesha is the cosmic serpent upon whom Vishnu reclines, and his name is often connected with what remains. That idea alone is captivating. After cycles of creation and dissolution, something is still there. Vishnu rests upon this endless serpent in the cosmic ocean, and the image feels like a secret diagram of existence. The world we see is temporary, but beneath it lies a deeper support. Shesha is sometimes shown with many hoods, suggesting immeasurable vastness and protective power. Some traditions link him with balance, time, and the stability behind cosmic change. People who enjoy hidden patterns often find this image irresistible. It suggests that reality has foundations far stranger than ordinary sight can detect. The divine does not float in emptiness. It rests upon infinity. For the listener, the lesson is quiet but enormous. Beneath every visible event may be a supporting mystery that never appears on the surface. Kamadeva reveals desire as powerful, dangerous, and spiritually instructive. Kamadeva is the god of desire, and his story shows how love's force can disturb even the greatest ascetic. When the gods need Shiva to awaken from meditation and unite with Parvati, Kamadeva is sent to stir longing in him. The mission succeeds in one sense, but it also brings terrible consequence when Shiva burns him with the fire of his third eye. This story is fascinating because it refuses to treat desire as simple. Desire can create life, repair cosmic imbalance, and draw beings into relationship. It can also disrupt discipline and bring suffering when handled carelessly. Some people find Kamadeva compelling because his flower arrows feel gentle, yet their effect can change destiny. The weapon is soft, but the force is immense. His lesson is not that desire must be hated. It must be understood. What moves the heart can either bind the soul or become part of its awakening. Rati gives love a sacred dimension beyond ordinary attraction. Rati is the consort of Kamadeva, and her role deepens the meaning of love in Hindu mythology. She is connected with pleasure, affection, longing, and the emotional world that surrounds desire. When Kamadeva is burned by Shiva, Rati's grief becomes part of the story's power. Love is not reduced to impulse. It becomes relationship, loss, memory, and devotion. In some tellings, her longing helps open the way for Kamadeva's return in a bodiless form. That detail is striking. Desire may lose its visible body, yet still continue to influence the world. Some people hear in this a surprisingly subtle psychological truth. Attraction is not only physical contact. It can live in imagination, absence, and inward pull. Rati reminds us that human love has layers. It can delight, ache, wait, and transform. Her presence keeps the story from becoming a lesson about punishment alone. it becomes a meditation on love's persistence. Kubera shows wealth as guardianship rather than mere possession. Kubera is the lord of wealth and guardian of treasures, but his symbolism is not only about getting rich. He is often associated with the north, hidden riches, and the responsibility of holding abundance. This matters because wealth in sacred stories is rarely neutral. It tests the mind. It can make a person generous or guarded, grateful or consumed by fear. Kubera's status as a guardian suggests that riches are not simply owned, they are watched over. Some people find this fascinating because it turns prosperity into a moral role. A treasure can bless a community or imprison the one who clings to it. Kubera is sometimes linked with yakshas, beings connected with hidden natural wealth, which adds an earthy and mysterious dimension. His lesson is practical and sharp. The question is not only how much a person has. The deeper question is whether that person can be trusted with what has arrived. Annapurna teaches that feeding others can become divine service. Annapurna is a form of the goddess associated with food and nourishment, and her teaching is wonderfully direct. Before philosophy, ritual, or meditation, the body must be fed. This does not make food spiritually low. It makes it sacred. In one famous story, Shiva learns the importance of material nourishment through her, which is a powerful reversal. Even the great ascetic cannot dismiss the world of food as insignificant. Annapurna holds a bowl and ladle, turning the act of feeding into a revelation of divine care. Some people find this especially moving because it places holiness in the kitchen, the grain, the shared meal, and the hand that serves. Hunger is not an abstraction. It is immediate. To feed someone is to answer a real need in real time. Her lesson is that compassion must become practical. A full bowl can be a sermon. A meal can be grace-made, visible. Ganga descends as a goddess whose waters carry sacred memory. Danda is not only a river in Hindu tradition. She is a goddess whose descent to earth is one of the great sacred stories. Her waters come from the heavenly realm, but their force is so overwhelming that Shiva must receive them in his matted hair before releasing them gently to the world. That detail makes the story unforgettable. Divine grace is powerful, and it must be mediated so creation can survive it. Ganga is also linked with purification, ancestry, pilgrimage, and the hope that sacred waters can touch the deepest parts of human life. Some people are fascinated by how a river can become a living presence rather than a natural resource. The water is geography, memory, theology, and devotion at once. To approach Ganga is not merely to see a river. It is to enter a relationship with a flow believed to connect heaven, earth, and the dead. Yamuna becomes holy through her connection with Krishna's playful life. Yamuna carries a different devotional mood from Ganga. She is sacred in her own right, but her association with Krishna's life gives her a sweetness that devotees feel deeply. Along her banks, the stories of Vrindavan unfold. Krishna plays, dances, meets the gopis, and fills the landscape with divine intimacy. This gives the river an emotional texture. It is not only purifying, it is relational. It remembers love. Some people find this powerful because it shows how geography can absorb story. A river becomes holy through what is believed to have happened beside it and through the devotion that continues there. Yamuna also appears in myths involving danger and protection, including the subduing of the serpent Kalia. That adds drama to her gentle associations. Her lesson is that sacred places are shaped by relationship. Water can carry memory. A landscape can become a witness. Love can make a river feel alive. Tulsi is revered as a plant linked with devotion to Vishnu. Tulsi, or holy basil, is one of the most beloved sacred plants in Hindu life. It is grown in courtyards, offered in worship, and closely associated with Vishnu and Krishna. What makes Tulsi fascinating is the way a plant becomes a participant in devotion. It is not only symbolic greenery. It is treated with affection, care, and reverence. Leaves are offered because they carry sacred intimacy. In some traditions, Tulsi is linked with the goddess Vrinda, whose story includes devotion, betrayal, transformation, and divine association. This gives the plant a mythic biography. Some people find that idea remarkable. A living plant in the home can become a reminder of loyalty and spiritual presence. Tulsi also connects domestic space with temple practice. The sacred does not have to be far away. It can grow in a pot, receive water each morning, and quietly shape the rhythm of a household. Shani teaches patience through hardship, consequence, and sober self-examination. Shani is associated with the planet Saturn, and his reputation is serious. People often fear his influence because it is linked with delay, hardship, discipline, and the consequences of past action. Yet fear alone misses the deeper teaching. Shani does not represent random cruelty. He represents the slow pressure that reveals character. When easy paths close, when pride is humbled, when shortcuts fail, a person is forced to become honest. Some people find Shani fascinating because he feels like the spiritual examiner no one can flatter. He is slow, exacting, and difficult to escape. That makes him one of the most psychologically powerful figures in Hindu astrology and devotion. His lessons are rarely glamorous, but they can be transformative. He teaches endurance, responsibility, humility, and realism. In a culture obsessed with speed, Shani says that some wisdom only arrives through time, limitation, and the willingness to face what we have avoided. Rahu turns eclipses into stories about ambition and cosmic consequence. Rahu is one of the most intriguing shadow figures in Hindu mythology and astrology. He is connected with eclipses, obsession, ambition, and sudden disruption. In the famous story of the nectar of immortality, he disguises himself to drink what was not meant for him. Vishnu cuts off his head, but the nectar has already touched him. The severed head lives on as Rahu. That image is unforgettable. Desire becomes immortal, but incomplete. It can swallow the sun or moon for a time, yet it cannot keep them forever. Some people see Rahu as a symbol of hunger without a body, a craving that has intelligence but no grounded satisfaction. This makes him intensely modern. He feels like the restless appetite that chases power, fame, novelty, and forbidden access. His lesson is not simply that ambition is bad. It warns that cunning without wholeness can create a shadow that keeps returning. Ketu points toward detachment through strange and shadowed spiritual symbolism. Ketu is often paired with Rahu, yet his meaning moves in another direction. If Rahu is the hungry head, Ketu is the body without a head. That image sounds strange, but it carries deep symbolic force. Without the ordinary head of worldly desire, Ketu can point toward detachment, spiritual insight, past karma, and the loosening of identity. In astrology, he is often associated with experiences that cut away certainty or turn a person inward. Some people find Ketu fascinating because he feels like a shadow that can become a doorway. He may bring confusion, loss, or disinterest in ordinary success, but those same experiences can push consciousness toward deeper questions. What remains when the usual ambitions stop working? Who are we without the stories we use to guide ourselves? Ketu teaches through subtraction. He does not always give what the ego wants. He may remove the hunger that kept the soul asleep. Percepta matrikas reveal mother goddesses with protective warrior force. The Sapta Matrikas are the seven mothers, a group of fierce goddesses associated with protection, battle, and divine power. They are not soft mother figures in the sentimental sense. They carry weapons, ride distinctive mounts, and often reflect the powers of major male deities in feminine form. This is what makes them so fascinating. Motherhood here is not only nurture, it is defense. It is the force that stands between life and threat. In some traditions, the matrikas appear in connection with battles against dangerous beings, showing that protection sometimes requires terrifying strength. Some people are struck by how this challenges shallow ideas about the feminine divine. The mother can comfort, but she can also confront. The sacred feminine can multiply into a whole capsule of powers. Their lesson is clear. To protect what is vulnerable, love may need armor. Compassion may need a weapon. Care may need to become fearless. The Dashavatara traces a grand arc through divine intervention. The Dashavatara, or 10 avatars of Vishnu, presents a sweeping pattern of divine appearances across cosmic time. What makes the sequence so captivating is its range. The divine appears through aquatic, animal, hybrid, dwarf, warrior, royal, pastoral, and future forms. Some people have noticed that the order loosely resembles a movement from simpler life forms toward human complexity, which has inspired plenty of speculative conversation. Whether one treats that as symbolism or coincidence, the pattern is undeniably fascinating. Each avatar responds to a different kind of imbalance. Sacred knowledge must be saved. The earth must be restored. Arrogance must be broken. Tyranny must be confronted. The future must still be cleansed. The sequence gives mythology a long memory and a forward direction. It suggests that divine help is not one event only. It is a recurring intelligence that meets each age in the form that age requires. Apsaras remind us that beauty can test discipline and wisdom. Apsaras are celestial dancers associated with beauty, music, charm, and the courts of the gods. Their stories often involve sages whose austerities have grown so powerful that heavenly beings become uneasy. An Apsara may be sent to distract a meditating ascetic, and that plot immediately raises a deeper question. What is stronger, the discipline that rises towards spiritual power, or the beauty that pulls attention back into desire? This is not merely a moral warning against attraction. It is a study of vulnerability. Even extraordinary practice can be tested by the senses. Some people find Apsaras fascinating because they are not simple villains. They can be graceful, intelligent, emotionally complex, and caught inside the politics of heaven. Their presence reveals that beauty itself has power. It can inspire art, awaken longing, and unsettle control. The lesson is that wisdom must include honesty about attraction. What we refuse to understand may rule us from the shadows. Gandharvas connect divine realms with music, art, and refined joy. Gandharvas are celestial musicians, and their presence gives Hindu cosmology a sense of sound, pleasure, and artistic refinement. They are often associated with music, fragrance, courtly beauty, and knowledge of subtle arts. This matters because it shows that the divine world is not imagined only through law, battle, or meditation. It also contains artistry. Sound becomes a bridge between realms. A song can shift mood, carry memory, and suggest realities that ordinary speech cannot reach. Some people are intrigued by the idea that music might have a sacred dimension built into the structure of existence. Gandharvas make that idea feel ancient. They are not just entertainers. They represent a refined vibration of joy and skill. In some traditions, they also connect with marriage and romantic union, which adds social meaning to their artistic role. Their lesson is that beauty can educate the soul when it is held with grace and discipline. Yakshas show that nature spirits can guard treasure and fertility. Yakshas occupy a fascinating space between folk belief, nature reverence, and major religious imagination. They are often connected with trees, water, fertility, hidden wealth, and the guardianship of places. Unlike distant gods of cosmic lore, they feel close to the land. A grove, a cave, a spring, or a buried treasure might be under their care. This gives the natural world a charged presence. The earth is not empty matter waiting to be used. It may be inhabited, watched, and protected. Some people find yakshas especially interesting because they preserve the feeling of a world filled with unseen agencies. They can be generous or dangerous, beautiful or strange, depending on the story and setting. Their connection with Kubera links them to wealth, but not in a purely financial sense. Treasure may include fertility, water, growth, and local abundance. Yakshas teach that the hidden life of a place deserves respect. Nagas link sacred serpents with water, protection, and hidden wisdom. Nagas are serpent beings connected with water, underground realms, fertility, guardianship, and secret knowledge. They appear across Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain traditions, which makes them one of South Asia's most enduring mythic presences. Their symbolism is rich because serpents inspire both fear and reverence. They move silently, shed their skin, live close to the earth, and seem to belong to hidden places. In many stories, Nagas guard treasures or sacred teachings. They can also protect rivers, lakes, and springs. Some people find them compelling because they suggest that wisdom may be stored below the visible surface of life. The serpent is not merely a threat. It can be a keeper of depth. Naga worship often reflects respect for water and land, which gives the mythology practical roots. Their lesson is that what lies beneath us is not necessarily lower. The hidden world may contain memory, power, and protection. Rishis often challenge gods, showing that wisdom can correct power. Rishis are sages with such spiritual authority that even gods must take them seriously. This is one of the most remarkable features of Hindu storytelling. The divine world is not pictured as a simple hierarchy where power always wins. A sage, through discipline, insight, and austerity, can gain force that shakes heaven. Sometimes gods seek their counsel. Sometimes they fear their curses. Sometimes they test them and suffer the consequences. This creates a fascinating balance between spiritual knowledge and divine authority. Some people are drawn to this because it feels almost rebellious. A human being, through inner mastery, can stand before cosmic powers and speak truth. That does not make the rishi ordinary. It shows how seriously the tradition takes consciousness. Wisdom is not decoration beneath strength. It can become strength of another kind. The lesson is inspiring and severe. If the mind is purified and focused, even the powerful may have to listen. Demons in Hindu stories are rarely simple symbols of evil. Asuras, Rakshasas, and other opposing beings are often translated as demons, but the stories are usually more interesting than that word suggests. Many of these figures perform austerities, worship gods, gain boons, study sacred knowledge, and show immense discipline. Their downfall often comes not from stupidity, but from distorted ambition. This makes them psychologically gripping. They may have power without humility, intelligence without compassion, or devotion without surrender. Ravana is a famous example. He is a scholar, musician, ruler, and devotee of Shiva. Yet his pride and desire lead him toward ruin. Some people find this complexity far more compelling than simple good versus evil. The danger is not always ignorance. Sometimes the danger is spiritual power captured by the ego. These figures teach that discipline alone does not guarantee wisdom. A person can climb very high and still be ruled by the one thing they refused to master within themselves. Lunes reveal how spiritual practice can empower the wise or dangerous. Boons are one of the great engines of Hindu mythology. A being performs severe austerities, wins the attention of a god, and receives a gift of power, protection, or unusual advantage. At first, this can seem like a reward system. Then the stories become more unsettling. The one who gains the boon may not be morally mature enough to use it well. Suddenly, the universe faces a crisis created by discipline without wisdom. This pattern is fascinating because it treats spiritual practice as real power, not harmless self-improvement. Tapas, or inner heat generated through austerity, can force even gods to respond. Some people find this almost dangerous as an idea. The cosmos is open to effort, but effort can be misdirected. A boon can protect a saint or empower a tyrant. The lesson is urgent. Do not seek power faster than character. What you win through discipline will eventually reveal who you are. Curses often become turning points that reveal a deeper destiny. Curses in Hindu stories are not just angry magical punishments. They often become mechanisms through which fate unfolds. A sage speaks in wrath. A god is forced into a limited form. A celestial being is born on earth. A king loses everything. At first, the curse looks like disaster. Later, it becomes the condition that allows a greater purpose to appear. This makes the narrative world feel strangely layered. Even misfortune may be carrying hidden direction. Some people are fascinated by this because it challenges the obvious reading of events. What seems like a fall may place someone exactly where a future meeting, lesson, or liberation can happen. The curse does not always excuse the action that caused it, but it reveals that consequence can become transformation. The lesson is not to romanticize suffering. It is to ask a deeper question when life turns sharply. What path has opened that comfort would have kept closed? Rebirth makes divine stories larger than a single lifetime. Rebirth gives Hindu storytelling an enormous scale. A character's present life may be shaped by actions, vows, relationships, or conflicts from earlier births. This changes how every event feels. A meeting may not be a first meeting. A fear may have roots beyond memory. A gift may be the return of something begun long ago. Some people who love hidden narratives find this idea irresistible because it turns identity into a mystery with layers. You are not only what you remember, you may be the visible surface of a much longer journey. In myth, rebirth can explain why gods take birth on earth, why enemies meet again, or why a soul must complete an unfinished pattern. The lesson is both humbling and empowering. Life is not reduced to one brief chapter, yet every action still matters, because each choice may travel farther than the mind can presently see. Hindu gods ultimately teach that reality is deeper than appearance. After all the forms, stories, names, festivals, temples, and symbols, a single insight keeps returning. The surface of life is not the whole of life. A child may be divine. A beggar may be a test. A terrifying form may be compassion. A river may be a goddess. A sound may become a doorway. A defeat may begin a transformation that no one understands at first. This is why the world of Hindu gods remains so fascinating. It trains the imagination to suspect depth everywhere. Some people are drawn to this because it feels like a challenge to flat, modern thinking. The universe is not treated as spiritually empty. It is layered with meaning, consequence, presence, and possibility. The final lesson is not that every mystery can be solved. It is that reality may exceed the categories we use to control it. To live wisely is to look again, and then look deeper. And so, we come to the end of this journey through the world of Hindu gods. We have seen a tradition where the sacred does not arrive in only one form. It can appear as a child, a protector, a teacher, a dancer, a mother, a river, a sound, or a presence hidden inside an image. It can speak through courage, devotion, discipline, beauty, duty, and release. It can enter the battlefield with Krishna, sit in stillness with Shiva, protect the world through Vishnu, and gather strength in the many forms of the goddess. These stories have carried us through temples, festivals, sacred cities, ancient rivers, and the inner landscape of the human heart. They have shown us that obstacles may become teachers. Desire may become a lesson. Wealth may become responsibility. Time may become a purifier. Even fearsome forms may be pointing toward freedom. And perhaps that is one of the deepest teachings here. The world is not always what it first appears to be. A simple ritual may hold centuries of memory. A small offering may become a bridge. A myth may become a mirror. A name, repeated with devotion, may slowly reshape the mind that speaks it. If you enjoyed this sleepy wisdom journey, you are warmly invited to like, subscribe, or leave a thought below. It helps this channel keep growing, and it helps other quiet seekers find their way here too. And if you are still awake, there will be another video waiting on the screen for you, ready to carry you into another world of calm curiosity. But for now, there is nothing more you need to follow. Let the stories settle. Let the names fade softly into the background. Let your shoulders release the day. Let your breath become slower, easier, and unforced. Allow your mind to rest without needing to hold on to anything. Sleep well and good night.